Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Kipps-Brown, your host for Adaptable Entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited tonight to have Justin Breen on, PR expert and founder of BrEpic Communications. He is awesome. And he's got a great book that you have to read. And the name of the book is Epic Business, right? Yes. Okay. Wanted to make sure I got it right. Great book. I've read it before and I'm reading it again. So I'm thrilled to have you here, Justin. You have so much knowledge and can't wait to pick your brain. So I want you to introduce yourself, though, and tell us about your background for people who aren't familiar with you.
Lisa, it's really great to be here. Your entrepreneurial story is super interesting, and my rocket fuel is talking to people like you all the time. I never get tired of it. So,
thanks.
I was a journalist for 20 years, created my entire business model based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. Only work with visionaries who have an investment abundance mindset. Didn't know what the word entrepreneur even meant when I started my company 3.5 years ago. Didn't know what an LLC was. Didn't know what a W-9 was, or you had to pay taxes 4 times a year. And now I run a global company that only works with the top mindset people in the world.
That is so awesome. Just the fact that you've only been doing it 3 years. Of course, you spent 20 years preparing unknowingly.
Unknowingly is right. That's correct.
20 years invested in it, but I love that you have all this experience from all these years and you recognize this problem that drove you crazy and you were able to take that problem and turn it into a really successful business.
Well, thank you. And so a good part of my day, and since I started my company 3.5 years ago, I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of the top entrepreneurial minds in the world. And so when you just talk to those people over and over, you see these patterns develop, and you hit it on the head. But it's a very simple formula for creating a successful global company. So here's the formula. You see a problem, you create solution to problem solve, successful global company. So that's all I did in the PR space. I saw a problem, created a solution, solved it, successful global company. And so time and time again, when I talk to these insanely successful people with brilliant minds, they just were annoyed or saw something that could solve the problem. So they solved the problem. And the difference between the highest level entrepreneurs and, average person or even lower level entrepreneurs, these folks not only thought about doing it, they executed it. They put it into action. And that's the big difference is, even though I'm talking a lot now, I actually don't like talking a lot. I just like to do it. Say less and more. So
well, they do it, but they also invest in themselves, right? They when they understand the value of something like working with you, their first question isn't how much does it cost? They know that no matter what, you have this tremendous value that you bring. And so they look at it as an investment and not a cost, right?
Yep. So again, own my company a little over 3.5 years. Someone who is asking me the question, what do you cost or what do you charge within the first 5 or 10 minutes has never been a client. They've never become a client. They've never signed a contract. And most importantly, they've never referred me to anyone of value. Because people with that mindset have strictly a cost scarcity transactional mindset. And I won't work with anyone like that because they don't understand the investment, long play, abundance, visionary mindset. And so the people I work with on a global level, it's the minority of minorities, but I'm totally fine with that because when you find those people, not only do they introduce you to other people like that, but they actively want to do that because they want to collaborate. They don't want to compete. They want to collaborate. Big difference. They don't want to sell you anything. They want to enhance and invest in you. And so it's very simple. It's just a totally different mindset. And so, people are, they're like business. It's really not about that. It's mindset 1, network 2, everything else is a byproduct of that.
Yeah. And you told me that most of your time you're just spending talking to people, right? Absorbing knowledge and experiences.
Yeah. So in terms of connecting people on a global level and getting people in news at a super high global level, there are very few people in the world that are better at it than I am, but I basically have no other skills. I can't really do anything else. So So I just stay in my zone of genius and do what I like to do and what I'm good
Now,
at.
I do know that you know how to pick up dog poo because you have a
Barely. We have a puppy, and it's difficult. That's much more difficult for me than talking to someone who owns 23 businesses in Australia and be like, oh, I know someone who owns 23 businesses in California. And then I'll connect them. And a week later, they'll be like, how did you know how to do that? I go, I don't know. Just don't ask me to pick up dog poop, even though I have to pick up dog poop. So we all have our gifts. Those are mine.
Yep. I was going to ask you, like, if somebody is just a plain old person at home and they're like, I could never do that, forget the experience part, the writing and all that, because that's hugely valuable and they've either done it or they haven't. But if they're going, I could never meet those people, how would I ever meet any of the top business people in the world? How did you do it? Did you just start reaching out to people? Did you join groups or what?
Yeah, you have a very high level thinking mind. So yes, yes, and yes. To get my first 5 clients, I reached out to 5,000 people. And when I started my company as a journalist, I had a giant network already, but it wasn't high level visionaries. It was journalists or sources for stories. And so the highest level entrepreneurial mindset, which I definitely have, you have to put yourself in a place that most people will never have the guts to, or even the capability of going. And and so I've met and talked to some of the most brilliant people on earth, and I have yet to meet one of the highest levels of entrepreneurs that has not gone through one of 4 things. That I haven't met somebody who hasn't gone through one of these 4. So 1, potential bankruptcy; 2, insane levels of depression; 3, high levels of anxiety; 4, likely possible traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. So,
okay, the first 3 don't surprise me at all, and the 4th really shouldn't. No. But I'm so glad that you pointed out those things, because especially now when everybody's afraid, you know, because of the uncertainty and everything, people are afraid of investing in their business, and everybody who is successful has failed, and they've usually failed multiple times. And the fact you said 5,000, you reached out to 5,000 people to get your first 5 clients.
Right, that's entrepreneur life.
Most people would have quit after 5 no's, much like 5,000.
Yeah, so again, the highest level entrepreneurs, that's just entrepreneur life. And so since COVID, the people I work on the global level are investing like crazy. This is the greatest opportunity that they've ever had. I mean, that's just, again, but most people, the world needs more integrators than visionaries. That's fine. Most people are not capable of, they're just not.
They just don't think that way.
They just don't, and that's fine. So I'll go into a room. Well, I used to go into a room of, 15, 20 people, and 19 out of them would look at me like I'm crazy, but I didn't care because I was only focused on the one person who actually got it. And that person was usually running a high 6-figure to 10-figure business, saw their families whenever they wanted to do what they wanted to do and what they were good at. And so then that one person became 2, that person became 4, then it became 8, then it became 16. It's just multiplication. So now it's tens of thousands.
When you said the other people looked at you like you were crazy, is it because you were talking to that person, or is it because of something you said to them?
Yeah, so I'm flying the plane. Everyone else they're landing the plane. They don't.
Okay.
So it's a different mindset. So what you said earlier, what was really important that I want to double down on, is that I am constantly in the room with people that have my mindset. So I'm in 3 of the highest level entrepreneurial groups in the world. One is Abundance 360. And so that's Dr. Peter Diamandis started that. He did X Prize. So people like Elon Musk are in that. Entrepreneurs Organization, there's 14,000 members on a global level. Average revenue per company member is $5 million US. And then if I could only do one, it would be Strategic Coach, which is the single greatest investment by far I've ever made. It's co-founded by Dan Sullivan, who's my hero. He's 76. He wants to live to 156. Every top entrepreneur I know has been through that program or knows what that program is. And so I just am constantly in a room with those type of people. And when you are, you just rise up with them. It's very simple. And so like Abundance 360 is a particularly interesting case, because 99% of the folks in there are running $10 million to $10 billion businesses, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll let every now and then let a wackadoo like me in there because my mindset is it's up
Because
here.
they see your potential. They know that.
They know. Well, it's not. It's one. My network and mindset is as good, if not better, than a lot of those folks.
Right. Yeah. They see that you fit in.
Right.
So.
Right. And I'm investing a significant amount of capital into it, and I'm not afraid to. That's a good investment. It's
Yeah.
not a cost. It's a good investment.
I'm really glad that you pointed out those groups, and especially the last one, because you said it's the best, or your
By
best.
far, it's the best. It's when you talk to someone who's in strategic coach, it's a different level of conversation because you know how their brain, not their personality, but you know how their brains think.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. So like the Bible of strategic coach, there's a test called the Kolbe test, KOLBE. It's the A index. It's the best $55 you ever spent. It takes you 20 to 30 minutes, but it gives you four scores. There are no bad scores, but it tells you scores in four categories. 1 is fact finder, 2 is follow through, 3 is quick start, boom, 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 and then 4 is implementer, working with your hands. So I'm the unicorn of unicorns, where I have high quick start, boom, 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 and high follow through.
Oh.
Most entrepreneurs have high quick start and no follow through. That's why they hire 1 million people. They're all over the place, ADD, whatever it is. So I just say it, do it, say it, do it, say it, do it. And I've met 3 people that have a Kolbe score similar to mine, but I can't build anything with my hands. I'm incapable of doing it, or making a puzzle.
Cool.
Can't do it.
Well, I need to go take that test, but that brings up a topic that I preach to people, is that you have to understand yourself in order to be successful. And I'll give you an example. When I was younger, I was like, why do I procrastinate? I couldn't understand it. I would put everything off to the last minute. It didn't matter how important it was. When I took the CPA exam, I didn't study and I passed it.
Right.
That's how and I'm not proud of it. I'm like, that is ridiculous, but I couldn't understand, and I would get so down on myself. And it wasn't until I was probably in my early to mid 30s that I realized I'm not lazy. I'm not a loser. It's because I'm a perfectionist. And if I start something too early, I will drive myself crazy. I work much better under pressure and just doing it and bamming it out, which is why I told you earlier why I do these live instead of doing something and recording it and then going back and doing all the editing before I post it. I would probably never post it because I would be worrying about every tiny little thing. But I love that test. I need to take that because even though I think I know myself now, I love that it's broken down into those sections. And I think the average person would probably be really surprised at their results.
So that's one. You said a lot of really interesting things there. I talk to so many people that I'm pretty good at. I can just tell kind of right away whether someone's like a very high quick start with no follow through, or like a high fact finder. What I do always ask is like, do you like working with your hands or gardening or building things or what? Because the implementer is hard to. It's hard to tell that with just staring at someone on a computer. But the super interesting thing about that is, one, it's been around 40 years. You could take it now and then 15 years from now, and as long as you're not going through a traumatic experience, the score will be the same because it's not your personality, it's how your brain strengths. And the other thing is like every top entrepreneur in the world, if you talk about Kolbe, they will know what that is. And so when you take that, it's like a magnet for attracting people with a high level thing. So and it's the Bible of strategic coach. It's I took it actually before I joined the program because one of my mentors is a coach in strategic coach. He's like, yeah, take the Kolbe before you join. So I have all this knowledge. And so not only does it help you think, see how your brain thinks, but then if you have an employee or if you need to hire someone with high follow through, you have them take that test, because if they don't have high follow through from that test, they will not follow through on it. They won't do it.
Yeah.
They're not capable of it. So it's a really good. And I had my wife take the Kolbe too. She's not an entrepreneur. She's a pediatrician. So I'm in 8671. So 8 fact finder, 6 follow through for when it's 1 to 10. So a 6 follow through for an entrepreneur, that's like a gajillion. Most entrepreneurs are 2 or 3, or if not 1. And I'm a 7 quick start, which is average, maybe even a little below average for an entrepreneur. And then I'm a 1 implementer.
Oh gosh.
So my wife, right. So it's a unicorn score. So my wife's an 8, 7, 4, 2. She has almost no implementation skills as well, but like that 2, the difference between a 2 and a 1 is like infinity. So she'll build the stuff in her house. She doesn't like doing it, but and so
infinity. The difference is infinity.
It is infinity, because I'd be a negative. Anything where I have to, like, me doing a puzzle or following directions with my kids, I cannot. I mean, I could, but it's a nightmare.
Will not read directions, and I don't mean like just putting something together. If it's a game, I do not want to read the instructions. I'm like, I'll just make it up, and I'll just play.
Make it up, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to go through all this and learn it, but I love to garden. I love to do things like that, but I like to do things and finish it and end. I don't like the in between. I don't like the weeding and the tidying up. I like the initial part where it's designing it and planning it and digging and putting it in. And after that, I'm done. I don't want to.
You're done with it. So yeah, I think you'd be fascinated with your score. And so the other thing with people that have implementer score as low as I do, which basically, again, it'd be a negative gajillion if it existed. But so we're futurists. So we think in a very futurist, visionary way. And so like the things every now and then I re-listen to a podcast that I did like 2 years ago, and it was things I was saying that are actually happening now. They weren't happening then, but they're happening now. And so you can actually like will yourself or talk yourself or visualize it and verbalize it. Like what I'm saying now, it'll happen 2 years from now or whatever.
Yeah,
like
and most people have to consciously do that. Most people have to consciously do that, tell themselves certain things, but your brain just works that way naturally.
It just works it. And it's amazing because I didn't know that about myself. Again, but so when you're in a room with those type of people, in groups with those type of people, you just become one of those people. It just organic, because that like it just organically happens. Like you're not just going to be by yourself. If people are at that level, you're not just going to stay down here. You're just going to rise with them. Yeah, and then you all rise together. So it's a fascinating it's just been a fascinating evolution. And now I look at it as it's only the beginning, because I just started this company. There's no limit to where it's going.
Infinitely. There is no limit.
No limit. None.
And I love your analogy about rising with them, because the other people that you don't need to be around drag you down like an anchor around your neck. It's like
that's exactly what it is.
It's like swimming. You have to make sure you can save yourself before you can say, but people, they'll drag you under. And, I already knew that you need to surround yourself with successful people, but just talking to you makes me even more motivated to go and seek out even more successful people than I have.
Yeah, thank you. My wife has taught me. So my wife is caring, community, rules, love, compassion, scheduling. And I'm like, action, get stuff done, go through the break, whatever rule you have to get it done. So she's taught me to say thank you. So thank you for saying that. She's made me somewhat of a human. But it's
somewhat of a human.
Somewhat. And then I've made her more of a risk taker. She had no risk taking acumen at all. And now she's much more bolder, whatever. And it's very exciting to see how we've risen together.
I was telling somebody a week or so ago, I'm more afraid of being bored.
Boredom is worse than death. That's my personality. It says that literally.
I'm not afraid of risk unless it's physical. I don't like heights.
I jumped out of a plane last year.
But mental and business and money, I'm like, money is just a number. Whatever. I don't care. And I just I've got to have a challenge. I have to keep things going. Even though I've been doing this, what I do in general, since 1995, started my business in 96, but it's always changing because the internet's changing. And one thing that is very interesting to me about myself is everything I did up until this,
Yes.
everything was 1.5 to 2.5 years. That was it. And I was on to the next thing. And even that would have been a long time for me, but it would have been like, I can do this. I can be normal. I can have a regular job. And even our other businesses that we owned them about 2.5 years, and then we would sell them. And so it's interesting to me how long I've been doing this, and I still love it. And my college roommates, they're like, I can't believe you never studied in college, and now you're reading all these books, and and I'm like, because I'm interested and I see a reason for it. It isn't just memorizing stuff. But you said,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you mentioned books, so like this is not plain, like, so I just have books lying around myself. I talked to Gino today. I've had a good talk with him today, so that's a good book. And then I just got this book. There you go. So like I'm surrounded by I haven't even started reading this one yet, but I'm just surrounded by books all over my house. So like if I'm in a room, I'll just grab a book and I'm actually a very slow reader, very, very slow. But then I'll just get little nuggets, and then I start my day. Again, Dan Sullivan's my hero, co-founder, strategic coach. So I start my day 4 in the morning with a run in pitch black around my neighborhood, listening to a podcast with him talking to one of the world's top entrepreneurs. So you start that day, and then Darren Hardy, he's a top motivational coach. So he has little 5-minute videos every Monday through Friday. So I'm just like you, just constantly learning, constant.
Yeah. So, feeding your brain. I like to, I hate running. I can walk faster than I run. It's like steps, and I'm like, I'm done. But I can walk really fast. But I love to mow with a push mower. I'm so weird. I'll mow last year.
You're an implementer.
Last year, my doctor was like, "Are you working out?" And I was like, "Well, I'm mowing the grass." And she looked at me like, kind of half rolling her eyes, and I'm like, pulled at my Fitbit app. I'm like, "Look, I mowed 9 miles yesterday." And she's like, "Whoa!" And we have really steep hills, but I'll listen to.
Oh my God! Right, that's
like, okay, I finished this one, but I want to listen to another one.
Yep.
But I'm not going to do anything else that long, though. But it's just something I can get in the zone with that, like you get in the zone with running. And my brain, I truly believe that the people that never stop and let their brain have a rest, you can't come up with good ideas. If you're trying to force yourself to come up with something and solve it, it is not going to happen. You need to let go, breathe, go to sleep, whatever. I don't know. You're probably like this too. You come up with ideas during the night in your sleep, and you dream it, and you wake up. If you're lucky enough, you remember it. I've come up with ideas like that, but I always say my best ideas come from when I'm mowing.
My best ideas come during my runs. So I've been running we live near Chicago, so it gets cold. So I've run 6 days a week outside, no matter the weather conditions, for 15 plus years. And so -20, I run outside, blizzard, run outside, monsoon, like it was today, I run outside. And so I got the idea to I finalized the idea of writing my book. I got the idea of raising my rates exponentially to weed out nonsense when I was running. I got finalized the process of how to write really awesome stories for media and pitch them when I was running. Basically every good idea has come during those types of runs, because it's just me, my family. It's just me and listening to something motivational or nothing at all, or very loud music, and I can just think about stuff. And what you said is very profound.
Your brain is like its own little organism, and you're freeing it up to do what it is capable of doing and good at. You're letting it have free reign, basically.
That's correct. And I'm an 8 fact finder, which is it's 1 to 10. So that's very high I'm a journalist. So endlessly curious, endlessly want to learn, endlessly need to be around people like you that think on a higher level, that they're flying the plane. And again, I never get tired of it. It is endlessly fascinating to me, meeting people that are not talking a good game, they're doing it, and they're the ones changing the world. And so someone asked me the other day, so who do you work with? I go, well, I only work with the top 0.1% of mindsets in the world, and I don't care if they're flat broke or they're running a gajillion-dollar company, because the reason I do that is because those are the folks that will have the most, that are creating the most profound impact overall. So if I just help those people, I help the most people overall. I can't help everyone. I can help these type of people that help everyone. Right. So that's it. I just want to connect with those type of people every single day, create value for them. They create insane value for me, and it just grows and grows every single day. I don't care about revenue. I don't care about office space. I don't care about employee count. None of that means anything to me. My 10Xing is two things. One, experiences in life with my family, because when you have a good family life, you have a good life. And then 10Xing my network on a global level, because when you grow your network on a global level like I have, it just creates endless opportunities for your network and yourself.
I love that mindset, Justin.
That's it. Well, again, so my mindset in my network is it's top 0.001% of the world. And that's not arrogance, that's confidence. And I know that to be true. People who don't understand that think it comes off as arrogant. It's actually the opposite of arrogance, because really I am useless to society besides that. And but because of this insane amount of confidence, it just attracts other confident people. And they're the ones running the companies that are changing the world.
Well, I'm curious, like you said, you're not an implementer. So writing, which one of the things that you're good at, which one would writing fall under? I know the fact finding, but the actual process of having to put the pen to paper.
Right, that's a really good question. So one, I'd never write anything down with my hands like that. I just type.
Okay.
So that's a really good question. So as a journalist, I wrote 2 to 3 stories on deadline every single day. I wrote my book in 43 days. I wrote a chapter in my book in 10 minutes. Boom, 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 boom. So that's high quick start, high follow through. Yep. Say it, do it. Say it, do it. Say it, do it. And so
I wrote my book. The last book I wrote it in basically a weekend. Everything was in my head anyway.
It was just there. You just got it all out. And so it's fact finder, because I'm very high fact finder, and then quick start, boom, 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 and then follow through. And it's a good question, because I was talking to someone the other day just about this, and he's like, when you're just writing a story or whatever, you just go into this weird zone where you have no idea what's going on, right? I go, yeah, it's almost robotic. And I've done it so many times. I just boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, done. And so my skill set is I can talk to someone for an hour. 55 minutes are totally useless to what anyone cares about, but then I can turn a 5-minute things that are actually interesting into a 500-word story that media actually cares about, and then the general public cares about. So that's a very unique skill set. Most people, they have no idea what's interesting or what's newsworthy, and then they don't have the connections to media that I have. So I've used those superpowers to create a global company, and then I just stay in those lanes. I don't leave my lanes.
So your writing ends up being like your idea, like what we were talking about earlier, freeing your brain up, getting ideas. Your writing sounds like it's the same way, because you've already done all the fact finding, and you let your brain go, and and your brain gets it out and puts it on paper or whatever in the computer.
Yes.
Kind of like, I guess, musicians or whatever.
That's exactly what it is. It's art. That's what it's just art on a different way.
Yeah.
And so again, man, your questions are really good. So the mindset and the ability to perform that I have in what I do, there's no difference in that than an Olympic athlete performing at the highest level, or a singer performing, or an actor performing on Broadway or in Hollywood. There's no difference in that. It's folks investing a great deal of money to watch the highest level of people perform at a craft that they've mastered. So that's no difference between that and any of the top level entrepreneurs doing what they're really, really good at, their unique ability or their zone of genius.
Okay, you know what? You just said something really interesting, and I want everybody out there to think about how much money you blow doing things because you just love it, whether it's going to the Olympics or whatever, and start looking at your business the same way.
It's no different.
Willing to invest the same amount that you do for fun in your business. And if you're doing your business, if it's a business you should be in, it's fun anyway.
Right.
I love that we need to look at it like that rather than how much does it cost. The whole cost thing
Yeah,
drives
it's
me crazy.
nonsense. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's just, it's again, that's a lower level nonsensical
Yeah.
thing, and that's why I don't work with anyone like that. But you know, so I work exactly 0 hours every week because I'm always doing what I like to do and what I'm good at. So
Yeah,
none of this would work for me at all.
you're doing what you would be doing anyway,
Yeah,
even if
this is
you didn't
easy
know
for me.
it's just different people.
That's correct. And so what I've learned is though, that as you raise your rates, exponentially, your business actually grows exponentially because you weed
Yeah.
out all the lower level thinking. And so it's again, I did not know what an LLC was. I still don't know what S corp stands for, and it does. None of that stuff matters because I just don't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm just flying the plane and doing what I like to do and what I'm good at. And so that's what's really exciting to me is that the company's already exceeded my wildest expectations, and now it's only the beginning because the seeds that I planted in 2020 or even since COVID, like these people are so unbelievable. And it just takes time for seeds to grow and turn into fruit. And when that fruit comes out, oh my God, it's going to be unbelievable. And it's just, there's no limit to it because of my abundance mentality. It just get better and better. It's
That's
just completely limitless.
so exciting.
Right. It is. And it makes me happy and it makes the people around me happy. It's a magnet for, so like I have a PR firm, but really what my company is on a higher level of thinking, it's just this giant incubator of geniuses around the world. We're just constantly introducing each other. That's really what it is.
Yeah. So it's not the PR that most of us think about. It's not pitching stories. Okay. It's thinking at a higher level and connecting the right people and the right ideas.
Man, it's interesting because I read about your dad and, visually impaired, and then that didn't say whatever. You grew up watching that, so you see the no limitations, and so you have this higher level of thinking already.
Yeah.
And then you've been in business for a long time, so you've seen how things adapt and evolve, and so you just understand it. 99% of people have no idea what I'm talking about, and that's fine, but you do. And so then you'll introduce me to someone else, and I'll introduce you to someone else because you want to do that. So
yeah, the fact that Daddy was blind, when we were growing up, we didn't think about it because kids don't think about what color your hair is. My best friend in high school had been coming over for 2 months before she realized he was blind.
I didn't even know.
Somebody in school said something about him being blind. She goes, he's not blind. I'm like, yeah, he is, because he didn't act like a blind person.
Right.
What people stereotypically think. But he challenged us all the time. I remember I was like 3 or 4, still small enough to ride on his shoulders. And we were walking down the road to my grandparents' farm where we had ponies. And he said, describe the sky to me. Like, how do you describe the sky?
What was your answer to that?
I don't remember, but what I do remember is he goes, well, it didn't look like that when I was a kid. And I'm sure there was something else after that. But he set the bar for us so high, and it was 3 girls. Set the bar for us so high. And it used to be really frustrating because I'd feel like nothing's ever good enough. But as I got older, I understood why he did that. And
he wanted you to be great. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And he grew up very poor. I mean, 11 kids in the mountains. I mean, dirt poor.
Right.
And so he went away to school, to the School for Deaf and Blind. So I'm sure things grew out of that because of the experiences that I don't know what he would have been like if he hadn't done that, but I do know that he would have still been curious and stubborn. I told my sisters the other week, I said, I finally understood kind of what attracted Mom and Daddy to each other, because they were very different, but they were both so curious.
Yep.
endless curiosity about totally different kinds of things, but just the fascination with learning things and new things and meeting people.
Yeah, so they never got bored.
Right.
And I don't know if the last time we talked, I don't know if I told you about my dad, but so he was 61 when I was born, and so he was a soldier in World War II. He'd be 104 if he was alive now. So he died when I was 13. And so if my house was burning down, I would say my family, my computer, my phone, and then my dad kept a diary of he fought in the battle. He was a first lieutenant, and grew up dirt poor in a little town called Elgin, which is about an hour away from Chicago.
I've heard of it.
And, yeah, his parents were immigrants in a little tiny apartment they all served their country. My dad became an attorney in the Nuremberg trials, ran an insurance company. So he kept this diary while he was fighting in the Battle of the Hurtgen Forest, which was one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how the hell he did it, because he was in raining foxholes. And so if my house was burning down, say my family, my phone, computer, and then that diary, I don't care. Like, material things don't really mean anything to me. That diary is my most cherished possession. So
I have chill bumps, Justin. Just hear the story. Are you going to ever put that in a book?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about my dad in my book, every now and then I'll get the diary out.
Yeah, I mean, really get the whole story out. Do you think you will, like, basically?
Well, so that's a good question. My first cousin, so I'm 43. My first cousin, he's probably 75. So I've always been like an old soul in a 43-year-old's body. Mm-hmm. So older person, middle-aged body, and who hangs out with a lot of people in their early 20s, and I have the maturity of probably an 8-year-old because I'm like a child. So I've got all this, whatever it is. But so I found that diary, or my mom gave it to me after my dad died, and so I read it every now and then. And I write literally exactly like him. The verbiage is a little bit different, but it's boom, 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 in the same way he tells a story. It's the same way. And so it's a fascinating thing. And so my mom was 27 when I was born, so she's 34 years difference. Mm-hmm. And I used to think my mom and I had nothing in common, except we like butter and ice cream. But when I realized after starting my company that I get my endless hustle from my mom, oh my God, her hustle is off the charts. And so I have this. And I don't usually tell this, but I think you'll appreciate it. So my dad was, there's an expressway called the Edens Expressway, which is, it's the North Shore Expressway out of Chicago. And so in the early 70s, he was driving on it. And this was before there was a cement median. And so there was a grassy knoll, and a drunk driver went across and hit him head on. He should have died. And my mom was his nurse. So she brought him back to life, essentially. And so I was like, that's my bloodline. So I was like just born with a story like that, and it's just like flowing. It's just endlessly flowing through me. Mm. And so I have this endless hustle from my mom. I mean, I can't even describe it. And then my dad was just.
I remember seeing the picture. Didn't you post a picture today or yesterday of
my mom? Yeah. So
I saw that.
So my mom is like the ultimate extrovert. I am not like that. I'm an ambivert. And then she just incredible connector, incredibly caring about everyone, and just does.
Yeah. Well, I realized I'm an extroverted introvert because I like.
You're an ambivert.
Yeah, because I like being around people, but I have to go in my cave and recharge for a few days, you know. And, so anyway, it's interesting when you learn more about. How old is your mom?
My mom is now 70. Wait, is she 71 now? She'll be 71 on November 8th, so she's 70, yeah.
She's still out active, just.
My mom? Oh, yeah. So my mom is... She's an aunt, right? She's an aunt, but some of her nephews are older than her because my dad's 34. So they always make fun of my first cousins who are 72, they always call her auntie, even though she's she's younger than them. They always thought it was kind of funny, but yeah. So that's where you like. That's why. So the one question I always ask people, I'm always fascinated, is their parents or their grandparents, were they entrepreneurs, or where they think they're
No,
from.
my father did own a store, but he didn't start it, and he was recruited out of the school he was in as a piano technician, music store, but he was a musician. He would not have been a business owner otherwise, I don't think, because I'll tell you what he wanted to be was a lawyer, and he couldn't afford to go to college. So basically, we became, he argued his case to us our whole life over everything, but it taught us how to think critically. But my grandfather was an entrepreneur, and he probably only went through like maybe the 4th or 5th grade.
Right. Half of my clients can barely read.
Yeah, and then he drove his mother crazy. He was like hyper or whatever, and his dad had a sawmill, and they would go from place to place. So he started working with his dad, my great grandfather, at the sawmill, and he was thrilled because he got to be out with these men doing this. So he ended up starting his own sawmill later, and then when my mom was little, he bought one of the first long haul trucks in the county that they lived in. So basically what would be a 18-wheeler now, except they weren't that big. And so, yeah, he was an entrepreneur, and then he saved his money up and of course paid cash for everything because that's how people were then. And he bought a farm when my mom was like maybe 11 or 13. 2 years after he bought it, he sold enough land for a drive-in theater for more than he paid for the whole farm. So he got it, but he killed himself when I was 5. So, it's
there you go.
Yeah, and one of those things, not like he left a note, not like anybody really knew. I mean, my aunt had been killed in a car accident, and so there were some things going on like that, but you never know. I mean, I think he just who knows, he might would have anyway. But yeah, I've said so many times or thought, I'm like, God, I wonder what he would have been like, or what we would have been like if he had lived another 10 or 20 years, for us to learn from. But
we would have probably bought a lot more things. It would have kept evolving. But again, that's why it's so important to be in groups like this, because normal people have no idea what people are gonna be like. Oh my God, that's out of control. I'll be like, no, that's entrepreneur life right there. That right there is entrepreneur life in a complete nutshell. And so, if you do find someone who has not done with or dealt with one of those 4 things I mentioned earlier, please let me know, because I still have not met one of them. But so you go 2 ways with that kind of thing. Unfortunately, what happened with your family, that's one of the ways sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
The other way is people, they just get through it. They push through it. They find the right help, a mentor, therapist, their friends, and then it leads them to actually more greatness. It's unfortunately, I've heard that story so many times. That's just entrepreneur life. That really is what it is. And so that's, again, most people they're not meant to be doing this, which is fine. But but the ones that are,
the ones that are that, and you have to have the other people that don't do that to make everything work and keep things going. So the crazy.
That's correct.
Can think.
That's right.
You were talking about looking to the future. I'll give you an example with my grandfather, and this is kind of just a basic one, but I mean, he had squirreled away so much money. So when my parents got married, they were going to build a house. He lent them the money. He paid cash. They paid him back, but they were not going to build a basement. They were going to, they were trying to be frugal, I guess. And he said, well, you know what? You're going to build a basement one way or the other. It's either going to be me paying for it and it's my basement under your house, or you're going to do it in your mortgage and you're going to pay me back. It'll be your basement. One way or the other, you're going to have a basement, or there will be a basement. And I always thought that was so funny. And of course, I don't know what we would have done without it, because it was a small house and we ended up 3 people. And, how back then people tend to have small homes anyway, but I always thought that was so funny. I don't care, but there's going to be a basement under your house one way or the other.
It's another good story.
Well, let me ask you something. So in a typical day,
I get that question a lot. Typical day.
but I'm sure people are like, what does he do for his clients? So basically, you're connecting people and helping people generate better ideas. Would you say that's
a good question. So folks invest in my company to get in news at a high level and for very high level strategic introductions. Mm-hmm. So the thing I hear more than anything in terms of a PR perspective is from people is that they're tired of being the best kept secret out there, meaning they have a great company, amazing technology, they've written a great book, they're running across the United States, whatever, and they want to be in news at a very, very high level to create validity and credibility for their brand, short-term and long-term. And I spend a good deal of time, which is a very good investment in my time, talking to all these brilliant people, and you can tell right away whether someone's the real deal or not. And then those people just wind up connecting me to other people like that. And then I just connect them to other people like that. It just grows and grows and grows. And it just keeps growing.
And I love that you said they invest in my company. You didn't say they hire me or whatever. You said
that's an investment
in my company. I love that. That's a totally different mindset.
Right. Again, my mindset's up and it just weeds out all the nonsense because the people at that level, everything's an investment. They don't look at anything as a cost. And there was a really interesting post the other day on Entrepreneurs Organization, one of those groups I'm in. Someone said, when your company is very profitable or has high revenue, what technologies or what things are you investing in? And people were like, new computer, new whatever. And I just wrote, I just invest in high level groups because it's an investment in my mind. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, oh, wow, that's a good answer. I'm like, yeah, that's the best investment. You invest in your brain. And then the byproduct is you just grow and then everything else follows suit. So if you invest in your brain and your mindset, and then you invest in your network, then those are the two most important things. And so that's the opposite of what almost everyone thinks, even entrepreneurs. But that's the key.
Well, I can say I'm so thrilled that Steve Sims introduced us and recommended that I ask you to be in my book. By the way, I haven't really announced it. Steve kind of announced it last week, which that was fine with me because I was trying to figure out. But Disrupt Your Now. And Justin is going to be in that book. And I'm going to be picking his brain to be one of the people that it includes content and thoughts from. So I'm so happy that you're going to be in it. And I think people just listening to a little bit of what you say, they're going to realize they really do need to disrupt their now. The reason I named it that is because most people are like, one day I'm going to do whatever. I'm like, no, why aren't you doing it now?
Let's talk more action. And so here's what you said that's really important is that, so for the most part, there are two types of people with the mindset I have, and then other people with cost scarcity mindset. There's a very, very, very small group of people where they're on the fence. And then every now and then I've seen it happen 4 or 5 times since I started my company, where I'll have a conversation with them, or I'll be on their podcast or whatever it is, or the book that you're writing. They'll read it or listen to this, and the switch will go on, and they will change. And it's an immediate, not like in 5 minutes, immediate, and it's like the light goes on. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, that is very exciting, because I was not always like this. I was not. I willed myself just getting in better and better rooms with higher level people, and I just became one of those people. Yeah. And so it can happen, but you have to be able to, again, deal with at least one of those 4 things that I was talking about, and be willing to put in an astronomical amount of work on your brain and on your network to get there.
That sums it all up. If nobody else listens to anything,
right, that's it.
Sums it all up. But y'all really, come back and listen to this again. I'm going to come back and listen to it again, Justin, just because
Thank you.
everything that you have to say is so interesting. And of course, I got to write down the things that you said, the 4 things and everything, so I don't take notes while I'm doing it. But
You want me to repeat those? I'm happy to.
oh yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, so I have not met an entrepreneur at the highest level who has not overcome one of the following 4 things. 1, potential bankruptcy. 2, insane levels of depression. 3, insanely high levels of anxiety. And 4, likely and or possible traumatic experience as a young child or a young adult. I haven't met one yet.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Very, very interesting. I'm so happy that Steve introduced us, and I'm thrilled that you were on here tonight.
Me
and
too.
I really look forward to working together and having you in the book and just making my own brain, filling up my own brain more and feeding it.
Your brain is a sponge. Your brain is very evolved. You are endlessly curious. You will never get bored of doing this. You'll be 130 having these conversations while you're mowing your lawn. And
well, people are like, oh, I don't want to work after this age. I'm like, I can't.
What are you talking about?
Because I'm not working anyway. So I'm like, what are you going to do? Just sit around in a recliner or something?
No.
It'd be different if it's like a real job or whatever, like most people are. But yeah, I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm lucky enough to be paid to do it. And meet awesome people like you.
Thank you.
So, and your company website, tell us the URL because I'll get it wrong. So if people want to learn about you.
Sure. So it's BrEpicLLC.com. B as in boy, R-E, P as in pony, I, C as in cobra, LLC.com, BrEpicLLC.com. Justin Breen on LinkedIn. I have over 23,000 followers there. I use it as a commercial for other people. So you can find me there. And then here's the...
Yes, the book.
So this book is literally... This book is exactly how I talk. There's no deviation from it. It's boom, 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 boom.
True. And most people, that's the thing that they need to do is go get the book, instead of go to your website. But I still wanted people to know your website. You never know who might be listening. So.
Well, the right people it's a magnet. So what happens is I do podcasts like this, and people with those mindsets, they will reach out, and everyone else won't. And that's fine.
Well, I really appreciate you being on here, Justin. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. And
thank you.
I'm just very excited about our conversation. So I'll talk with you soon. Yeah, talk with you soon. Now you got to go get that puppy. I didn't get to see him, so one of these days. But yeah.
Let me get a picture real quick. Okay, here's my surprisingly normal wife and my dog. Wait, there we go.
Oh, look. Oh, baby.
That's Dr. Sarah Breen and Dr. Pepper Breen. Dr.
Pepper. Wife and doggy. That's awesome.
It's a miracle.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And tell her thanks for letting you take an hour out of your family's evening and spend with me.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you back next week. Thanks.